So the Switch summer sale is in full swing at this point, with a ton of the games discounted by 50, 60 and even 80% off in some instances. And so today on the channel, I'm going to be covering off 10 games that if I had the cash to splash, I'd definitely be picking up. I've listed these with the prices for both the UK and US, as well as Australia, Europe and Canada, and you'll find timestamps to the games down in the description box below. But without further ado, let's get into it. So first up on our list then we have an absolute corker, that being Disco Elysium, The Final Cut. And this one is definitely going to appeal to those who are fans of classic adventure games, especially those with heavy emphasis on the story elements. The game sees you playing as a detective who, waking up after a heavy sesh with no memory of his own identity, has apparently been tasked with investigating a murder. But what sets this one apart is that much of the narrative comes from the main character's internal emotions, with each of them having their own individual persona, and there's some phenomenal scripting and voice acting in the game. Gameplay is primarily focused around exploring and investigating as you chase leads and wander the downtrodden streets of Revachol, and there's some really interesting RPG mechanics going on, with decisions and actions handled through skill checks rolled against your character's skill values, which can be customised at character creation and modified by wearing different clothing. This all means that the outcome of situations will differ depending on your skill levels, and so playing the game through multiple times is a must to see everything this one has to offer. A great game though, and well worth a purchase. So for all you puzzle game fans out there, up next we have three of my all-time faves, starting off with Valve's classics, Portal 1 and 2, which come together in the Portal Companion Collection. Now, anyone worth the salt will no doubt have played these games already, but even if you have, this is a great opportunity to dive back in and relive the experiences. But just in case you haven't, the Portal games are essentially puzzle platformers which see you trapped inside a facility by a stark raving lunatic AI called GLaDOS, and forced to solve puzzles using a portal gun. Popping down two coloured portals will allow both you and objects to pass through them, and there are some ingenious puzzles to solve in this one, but it's really about escaping the facility before GLaDOS is done having a fun with you. Incredibly memorable, jam-packed with hilariously dark humour, and an absolute classic of the genre. Now, a more recent favourite of mine has to be Superliminal, a mind-bending first-person puzzle game which has you altering your perspective of your environment and objects to manipulate the scale of them and solve puzzles. The game is set inside an experimental dream therapy session, which results in some incredibly surreal scenarios for you to work through and some utterly bizarre optical illusions for you to experience, and all of these are fed back into the puzzles you face, making for an incredibly memorable gameplay experience. And there are very few puzzle games out there which gripped me as much as Superliminal did, and if you're a fan of the genre, then I highly recommend giving it a go. So one for all you Metroid cum Soulsborne fans out there then, next up we have Blasphemous, a game which I've been meaning to play since release and haven't yet found the time, but one which aims to put your skills to the test as you explore its cursed world and attempt to break the endless cycle of death and rebirth. With some brutal skill-based combat, phenomenal pixel art visuals and a mix and match equipment system making for a wide variety of builds, Blasphemous is essentially a 2D Metroidvania version of Dark Souls, all about upgrading your abilities, hunting down new equipment, and taking on those big challenging boss fights. If you like games like Salt and Sanctuary or Hollow Knight though, then Blasphemous will no doubt be right up your alley. So heading to the complete other end of the spectrum then, Spiritfarer is about as chill as you can get on the Switch, and it's a game which absolutely aims to tug at those heartstrings and bring you to tears, with the core concept of the game revolving around shepherding different animal spirits to the afterlife. The game has you playing as Stella, a young girl and ferrymaster who travels the world befriending spirits and then cares for them before eventually sending them onwards. And throughout the game you'll be mining, farming and fishing for crafting materials, which can then be used to cook meals, craft items and upgrade your boat to cater for new occupants. A fantastically moving experience and an unmissable one for fans of everything wholesome and cosy. So back to the action then, as two of my favourite games of all time come together in the Hotline Miami collection, featuring both Hotline Miami and Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. This duo of absolute gems are hyper-violent acid trips through the late 80s and early 90s Miami, in which the player is sent on hit missions to take down the Russian mafia. But his gameplay is brutally fast-paced, playing like the original top-down Grand Theft Auto games on steroids. As you battle through each level though, your objective is simple: slap on a mask to gain a unique perk and take out every enemy in the level using a combination of melee and ranged weaponry. But with one-hit deaths, this is definitely easier said than done. Altogether though, brilliantly brutal, fast-paced and surreal experiences with some challenging but rewarding gameplay which just begs one more try. So up next on our list today then we have Carrion, a game which aims to flip the horror genre on its head, as in this game you play as the monster, and after escaping from the confines of your enclosure get to terrorise the occupants of a facility as you stalk its halls, consuming everything in your path to grow, evolve and eventually escape. The game plays much like a Metroidvania though, with you progressing back and forth through the facility, solving puzzles and acquiring new devastating abilities to open up new paths and expand your arsenal. And the power trip that comes with tearing through rooms and their occupants as a monstrous red blob is an absolute joy and never fails to satisfy, though you will have to strategise in certain situations when the scientists decide to bring out the big guns. An awesome little title though, and well worth a play. So if you're in the market for a classic PS2 style platformer, then Pumpkin Jack may be just the ticket. A game which has you playing as Jack, the mystical pumpkin lord, who after snagging himself a body and a flaming pumpkin head, embarks on a mission to unleash hell on the world of Ark NCL. This one though harks back to a simpler time in gaming, taking influence from the likes of Spyro the Dragon, Medieval and even Ratchet & Clank, and it feels very much like a game of yesteryear with plenty of platforming, combat and puzzle solving, and some really cool Crash Bandicoot style set pieces as you hop aboard your steed and dash between areas. It can be a little janky at points, which in a sense only adds to the experience, but a fantastic throwback and well worth a play. Now if you're looking to slow things down a bit, our next game is in my opinion one of the best walking simulators since Firewatch, but don't let the genre's name fool you into thinking that you're in for a boring ride with this one, as What Remains of Edith Finch is anything but. The story in this one though is a grim tale to say the least, as Edith returns to her childhood home to explore a family's tragic past, living through each family member's memories and experiencing their life on the day of the death, as she attempts to figure out why she's the last one left alive. A fantastically dark story in this one though, with some great variety to each memory, and if you've never played a walking simulator, then What Remains of Edith Finch is definitely a showcase of the best the genre has to offer. So rounding off today's selection then, we have one of the best loot shooter games of all time, or should I say 3 of the best, as the Borderlands Legendary Collection brings together both Borderlands 1 and 2, as well as the Borderlands pre-sequel into one awesome package. The perfect blend of RPG and shooter though, these ones are well known for the randomly generated weapon system, giving you near limitless amounts of ridiculous weapon combinations to collect, but the games have you playing as a number of different vault hunters, each with their own specialist abilities and playstyles, and venturing out into the world of Pandora to brave its bandit-filled wildlands and seek your fame and fortune. Over-the-top action and larger-than-life characters is the name of the game with this one, and in my mind, the Borderlands series are definitely amongst the best co-op experiences available on the Switch. And so that is it, that is my pick of the crop for the Switch summer sale, but what are you buying and what do you recommend to others? Let me know down in the comments section below, and as always, drop a like if this one helped you out, and subscribe to the channel for more Switch reviews, deals and top game lists. For now though, thanks once again for watching, take care of yourselves, and game on.